There was a man said that it's taken millions of years for man's instincts to develop, and it will take another million years for them to change in the slightest way. Yet everybody's talking about changing man. And advertising communication should be talking about unchanging man, and the way that he has an innate drive to be successful, to be loved, to be respected, to be warm, to make his life easier in some small way. And the man who said that was Bill Bernbach. And if the people who are watching this don't agree, then probably nothing I've said in the past 10 minutes will have been any use. And if the people who are watching this don't know who Bill Bernbach is, then they're probably beyond help anyway.
When I first saw that video and I played it several times, I thought it was close to being one of the most insultive and arrogant things that anybody could sort of really say for somebody wanting to learn. But as time has gone on, this man has just uh, brought so much to my mindset in which I go about advertising and creating and marketing, and you would do very well, as I have done, to learn from him and forgive him for his very cutting statement. His name is Steve Harrison, and as you can see here, he's regarded as the greatest direct marketing creative of his generation. Right, strong plaudits, and as you can see, he's won more Cannes Lions awards than any other creative director in the world, and that's almost like, the Oscars of marketing and advertising as well. Steve Harrison he's written a couple of books that I'm certainly aware of and I've looked at, but this one, How to Do Better Creative Work, as you can see, you can get a used version for about £30. Brand spanking, it'll cost you in the hundreds. I settled for the Kindle version, but it is a terrific read, and this man really is something else. Now, the person he was referring to, quite naturally, and this is probably the reaction that he wanted to have, was I just jumped online and I started researching everything I could about Bill Bernbach, who was quite the ad man. He was responsible for a just groundbreaking Volkswagen campaign in 1959, I believe it was. Now, what's the significant thing about succeeding with a Volkswagen campaign in 1959? Well, it was in the States, and it was only 14 years or so after the Second World War. And here, the client, who was German, with cars made in that quote-unquote Nazi Germany, was looking to sell them to Americans. And you know what? He pulled it off and then some. One challenge I'll throw down to you, very similar to what Steve Harrison did with me, is just go online, go to YouTube and put in Bill Bernbach. There is a very able ad man called Dominic Imseng, who is quite the student of the Volkswagen campaign. You can learn a lot, but there's a couple of videos with Bill Bernbach, and you can hear him talk and his take on things. Incredibly affable man, and just a real pleasure watching, and as always, you will learn a lot. Now, what Steve Harrison and a number of other very well regarded ad men sort of riff on about a lot of the time is the fact that they believe people selling advertising, they believe people creating advertising, they believe people who take money from entrepreneurs, businesses, mom and pop companies, have an obligation to learn their craft, and too many of them do not. And in a recent direct mail letter that I wrote, you can actually say, I said, as time has gone on and my own marketing and advertising skills improve, I've also begun to wonder whether the publications you advertise with are perhaps doing all they can to help you. So I just think, once certainly a creative company, be it a web designer, be it a PR company, be it an advertising agency, be it a marketing agency, once they begin to learn about this sort of stuff and understand that they have an obligation to people like you who are digging into their pocket to pay for advertising, they really owe it to themselves and to you to learn as much about this as possible. And it all really began back in the day when we talk about advertising, with it being salesmanship in print. Advertising is salesmanship in print. And this was the kind of definition of advertising given by a gentleman called John E. Kennedy way back in the day. So think about this. This is the salesman, okay? This is the situation we normally have. I don't believe I've come across a business owner who, if put in a one-in-one situation with a prospect, would not be able to sell. They speak passionately about the product, they ask the right sort of questions and so on and so forth, but it is very, very difficult, of course, to scale that. What ends up happening is that, you are one person. You can only make one phone call at a time. You can only go and visit somebody at a time. And if you're like any of the entrepreneurs I know and work with, you have a lot of stuff going on at the same time. So in order to have a situation where you can create something that can sell on your behalf, that's the whole purpose of an advert. So when you look at something like this, and I like this, it talks about the different colors, it talks about how it can fit, it's got a nice header at the top, it talks about the quality of the thing. Technically speaking, this is salesmanship in print. This is allowing the ad to go out, go forth and sell in print. But this man, widely regarded as the greatest living copywriter, Gary Bencivenga, he took it a little bit further, and he said, as opposed to it being salesmanship in print or salesmanship one-on-one like this, Gary Bencivenga says advertising is salesmanship multiplied. Okay, so it's not just in print, it is multiplied, but it's all about sales. This is the one big thing. And I will say, just a few minutes into this video, if you are the kind of advertiser, or if you are the kind of entrepreneur who wants to use advertising just to sort of brand your business and get the name out there, let people know who you are, where you are, this training is not for you, because this is all about people who want to sell. And as Mr. Ogilvy said, we sell or else. I love that hashtag, sell or else. So welcome once again. I am Mucha Marapa, provider of done-for-you digital marketing services by day, and in the evenings and weekends and all the other times, a advertising student, advertising consultant now, in all seriousness, where on the back of this groundbreaking, life-changing book, Scientific Advertising, I'm here to show you that the only purpose of the advertising you do is to make sales, because once you can learn how to consistently pay £1 and get £1.50 back, your business and your mindset changes forever. Now, let's speak about this mindset. Let me speak about how things can change for you in a big, big way. I mentioned that I do the majority of my done-for-you services via an online platform called Upwork. There I am well regarded there, and I have success with the jobs that I do. But here is something that I get quite literally every day. Look at that, Mucha. Here are 10 new jobs you might be interested in, right? Marketing strategist, digital marketing manager, social media manager, email marketing, all these things I do. And you know what? This situation comes to me. So what I'm just trying to say to you, when we start moving over here, you get in a situation where you're advertising, you will get leads, but even better, it will be people interested, looking for, actively searching for what you can provide, and you will generate sales. So in the last video, we covered the use of a compelling headline, translating value, using features, benefits, and advantages. If for any chance you have not seen that first video, please pause this, stop this, go back and watch the first one, because one very much leads to another. But in this one, we are in for a special lesson. I absolutely love this, because we are talking about developing a big idea. So what is a big idea? Well, a big idea is a marketing hook that will allow you to grab the attention of your ideal prospect with a message or series of messages that result in the prospect saying, this is for me, this is it, this person, this program, this product, this service, this is what I've been looking for. And Mr. Ogilvy, who loved his metaphor, his use of metaphor, says it takes a big idea to attract the attention of consumers and get them to buy your product. Unless your advertising contains a big idea, it will pass like a ship in the night. I doubt if more than one campaign in 100 contains a big idea. That's huge. But the person I really need to thank for this is my marketing funnel teacher and my mentor of the year, Todd Brown. Because if you look here, I spoke in the last video about a funnel, okay? But one thing I had not shown in the previous video, because we weren't sort of at that stage yet, is can you see that from left to right, okay? All the way through is a big idea. So what I mean by this is that by all means you can put one solitary advert out, right? One brochure, but whatever you do, you've got to make sure that behind it is a big idea. And by and large, the more space that you have, so if you're going to be running a series of ads, or if you've got a letter that you can write that's going to be several pages, and this is why sometimes you go online and you see those long text style letters, or you see videos as well. It's because they are all based on a big idea. So what does a big idea consist of? Well, the big idea consists of prospect identification, specificity of a situation, proclamation of a new idea, and also a unique mechanism, and finally the big promise. So let's start with the prospect identification. You'll remember in the previous video I mentioned how much I liked these two ads. Okay, on the left it said, are you experiencing financial problems? And on the right it said, is your PC or Mac sick? Right? It was picking somebody out. It was being specific about a situation. Right? Here's somebody who I work with, Garland Smithy out in Houston, just a great guy, a serial entrepreneur. You name it, Garland is doing it, right? But look at this. He's got his divorce group for men, and look at that first line, divorced and over 40 years old. Okay, and then he goes on to talk about, other men in your situation. And here is somebody who I learn some things from every time I speak to him. I've had the very good fortune of providing some digital marketing services for him. David Rothwell, author of the AdWords Bible for e-commerce, and DR is all about e-commerce. I mean, that is it. So when we talk about prospect identification, you've got to really make sure that you let a certain who know that it is for them. And the analogy I like to use is it's almost like, when you're in a crowded place. Let's say, you're checking in at an airport, and then over the tannoy you hear that bim boom, would such and such, there's something that actually calls somebody out. So out of everybody there in the space, right, they actually have something calls and says, yes, that's me, and they'll go over to the desk or anything else like that. That's what you've got to do with your prospect identification. Now, when we move with specificity of the situation, we look a little further with what Garland is doing here. And when you look a few lines down, right, he is there to help people understand their situation. What's their situation? Well, they are divorced, right? So he says help them understand the real reason that the divorce has happened and get rid of all the various baggage. So he wants to be specific with their situation. He isn't saying, okay, are you over 40, divorced, and you're looking to go off on a boys' weekend somewhere? No. He's saying, okay, look, this is what we're going to do. We need to fix your mind. We need to get rid of some of the bad wiring, and so on and so forth. So you've got to be very specific. And look at that. Understand the real reason divorce happens. Overcome any emotional baggage. And there at the bottom, he actually says he got married again. So he makes it very clear. His prospect identification is men over 40 who are divorced. The specificity of their situation, obviously they're divorced, but they also want to sort of sort things out with view to getting married again. A few weeks back, when Brexit was sort of just at the tip of everybody's tongue here in the UK and around Europe for that matter, okay? Look at this ad. Is your retirement Brexit proof? Is this specificity of situation? It's saying you have retirement, right? But because of what has happened, are you safe? And look at this. Is your pension safe? So again, if someone hasn't got a pension or it will not talk to them. But this has identified a prospect and it has been very, very specific about their situation. So I suppose if there was some additional things that could be done here, and it's not always necessarily in the one ad, it can be done over a series or campaigns or anything like that. It says, are you experiencing financial problems? So this could say, are you a business owner? And are you a single parent? And it can just, and on the right hand side, same sort of thing. It said, are you a salesperson with a sick PC, meaning you can't do your work, you can't sell, you can't put food on the table, so on and so forth. So really be aware of that prospect identification and the specificity of the situation. And something to remember here, because it's very, very important, is that when we're saying identify your prospect and be specific about their situation, we're just saying relative to the marketing. Okay, so often I speak with people and deal with clients, all the time, who have a product, they have something that could technically be bought by everybody and used by everybody, but we've just got to really fine-tune our marketing and our advertising to call somebody, because like Drayton Bird said, the legendary direct marketing man, he says, your message need not speak to everyone, but it must say something to someone. Proclamation of a new idea, unique mechanism. This is one of my favorites, and what we're talking about when we go on to a unique mechanism, we're saying, what is the thing your product, service, program uses that will provide the superior offering and the desired end result you say you can deliver? Now, it kind of makes me feel a little nervous, but I will do it all day long, because I think the infomercial world, when you sort of stay up at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, turn on the TV and you see all these seemingly goofy ads where they're just selling stuff, and some of them run forever. It is a great, great thing to do, just to sit down and understand that and see and go through them, because they are absolute magicians at using a unique mechanism. All right, and no different than this one here. You look at this, www.brightlightpillow.com, and I've got a short video clip for you, so just have a watch of this.
If your child's afraid of the dark, you could use a nightlight. But here's something that's fun. Give them a pillow that lights up. It's the Bright Light Pillow. It's comfy, it's bright, it's even smart. Just tap the Bright Light Pillow to turn it on. Its 24 LED lights provide soothing, perfect light for 15 minutes and then automatically shuts itself off. Your Bright Light Pillow changes colors automatically from red, blue, white, green, yellow. It's a light show in a pillow. Lights on, lights off. Call now to get your very own Bright Light Pillow for only $19.99. And when you order, you'll be eligible for free shipping and even discounts on additional Bright Light pillows. And don't forget to ask about the all-new Bright Light Blanket with 30 LED lights. Here's how to get yours.
Okay, so let's take a look at this again, right? Unique mechanism. What is the thing your product, service, program uses that will provide the superior offering and the desired end result you say you can deliver? And when we looked at that ad that we just saw there, the lights, the way it comes through, it's because of the 24 LED lights. It contained something in there. Oh, and by the way, did you also notice the prospect identification and specificity of the situation? If your child is afraid of the dark. So now parents will be watching that thinking, you know what, we're parents, we've got kids, and yes, they do not like the dark. But let's move on with the infomercial case studies, okay? Here's one called Flowbee, the precision home hair cutting system. And when you move over there, look at that in the yellow. The Flowbee vacuum haircut system allows you to, and it goes on and on. So they're actually saying that there is something specific in that product that allows you to get the desired result. Nobody, very few have done it better than this organization here, Apple. And remember the MacBook Pro with the Retina display all of a sudden, okay? It wasn't just, a laptop per se, okay? It was one that had something, it was that unique mechanism, okay? A Retina display. So when you start looking at some ads, and whether it's yours or whether it's some other local ones, here's a lovely ad that I saw. I love the picture, I love the fact that they don't put the logo at the top and so on and so forth. But that's beds, and you look at that, they've got frames and mattresses, okay? Is there something in that frame? Does the mattress have something that kind of you can say will help you sleep better than just another bed product, for want of a better word? Here's a masonry company not far from where I live here in Ipswich, and as you can see, they are using a certain bit of stone, okay, and utensils and equipment, can you turn around and say, listen, our masonry work is better because we use this, this, and this? Here is a blinds and shutters company. You see they do rollers, they do shutters. Okay, is there something in there that you can say this separates us from everybody else? Going back to David Rothwell, he has the Clicks Customer Cashflow System. Okay, he's not just an AdWords guy. He's not just an AdWords guy for e-commerce. No, he actually has a system. It's the Clicks Customers Cashflows System. That's what he uses to get his clients the very best. And by the way, DR is so good at what he does, he works on a commission only. So he actually goes and says, look, I'll set everything up, I'll do this, I'll put this all together, and when you sell on your pay-per-click, I'll get a drink out of it. This man is that good, using the Clicks Customers Cashflow System. And here is my big brother and best pal, Tao, right? He is a financial advisor based out in Los Angeles, and he has the Total Rate of Returns system. And you know what? At the end of the day, it's value investing. No different from what a certain Mr. Warren Buffett has been using, and many other very successful finance guys for many years. But no, we have positioned it, we have used that unique mechanism of calling it the total rate of returns strategy. Okay, now one very interesting thing that you've got to sort of understand here, and again we go back to somebody from way back in the day who brought this forward, is that I am not asking you, and the idea is not for you to just think of something up in thin air. It's very possible that you'll be using a unique mechanism that at times everybody uses. The big question is, are they talking about it in their marketing? Are they saying this is what makes the difference? Okay, because Claude Hopkins ran a campaign for Schlitz beer. Okay, and you can see, it's like a funnel, right? All these campaigns, all these different ads. To this one, don't worry, darling, you didn't burn the beer. If you just look on the side there, she's got a burning frying pan in her hand. She's very upset because she's burnt hubby's food, but he's saying, hey, it's all good. The brews are still there. And when we move on now and we actually look and we see what made this successful, because the beer went from being the 8th best-selling beer to the top best-selling beer in America. Okay, and this was the new idea and the unique mechanism. Okay, ask your doctor. He started talking about the purity of the beer. Tell him that every bottle is pasteurized after it's sealed. He will say that such beer must be germless. And you see how he uses a doctor in there as well. I mean, it's just genius. Now, you may not be able to read this totally, so I will read bits of it from you. He says, how Schlitz beer is brewed, you would never buy any other. You would see plate glass rooms filled with filtered air where we cool it. Okay, he says you'll see glass lined tanks. He says how we filter it through white wood pulp, how we sterilize every bottle, how cleanliness is carried to extremes. All right, every single beer company was doing this. However, what Schlitz beer did was they started talking about it. So once again, I'm not asking you to necessarily go to a dark room and start dreaming all this stuff up. Just look at your product, look at your service, look at your program. What is it you're delivering? Is there a new idea? Is there something that people haven't necessarily heard about? Is there something that makes it function better? Okay, this is what you've really got to look at. Here's a client of mine, Jengis, from Miller's Fish and Chips. Does fantastic fish and chips if you're ever in Ipswich. And look at this. This was even before he and I started working together. Oil. We use only high quality vegetable oil, which makes our fish and chips delicious. This oil is hydrogenated, so it only contains 1% of fat. We filter the oil every day to remove those little black dots, carbons, to make your food healthier and tastier. Now, I am guessing, I didn't ask him, I probably need to, give me an excuse to go and get some fish and chips, but, there must be surely other chippies that are doing this. But Jengis talks about it. That is his unique mechanism. So, just to once again summarize that, when we talk about a unique mechanism or a new idea, what is the thing your product, service, program uses that will provide the superior offering and the desired end result you say you can deliver? And we really sort of ran the whole gamut there, from that infomercial talking about the lights that go in the pillow. We talked about the blades that are in the shears. We talked about the Clicks customers cash flow system. We talked about the total rate of returns strategy. Okay, I showed you a masonry company where they could say it's the kind of marble we use. I showed you a bed company where you could say it's the kind of mattress or the foam that we use. There are just so many different things that you can look at. So dig deep, think about it, take the time to really look at this and include it in your advertising. And then the final point is the big promise. So when we're talking about a big promise, we're talking about mainly one desirable promise. What you have, what's it going to do for them? How will it change their situation? You almost want that person to be sitting there saying, how is this going to impact my life? How is this going to improve my world? Now, in my own case, I sent some letters off to some local businesses, and my big promise was how you can get the best results from your advertising all of the time. And I elaborated. I said, and you'll see a positive ROI on all of your ad campaigns. When I do my work from home, become a social media manager program, look at that. And I mean, can you see as well how some headlines will combine with the big idea, will combine with the prospect identification, and so on and so forth? But here I'm saying how you can earn this sort of money, right? And best of all, you can make that money working only 10 hours a week. Big promise. Over here, Todd, my marketing funnel teacher and my mentor for 2015. Okay, look at this. How to set up your first $100,000 marketing funnel in the next 30 days. And look at that, with the 5-step, 6-figure funnel formula. So can you see how these things begin to sort of really play off one another? And one of my biggest hopes for you after this is that you will just never start looking at not only your own advertising the same, but you'll begin to look at other advertising, other marketing, and say, okay, what are they doing there? How did that get the attention there? I often hear people say, well, he's done it because he's got more money to advertise than me, and so on and so forth. And sometimes that might be the case, but a lot of the time it's just the messages that are being put in front of the right people. And then I go over to sort of, a web page and we're looking at, and this is a place, personal trainers, and fantastic website, beautiful, looks like a great outfit. They're out in London. And look at this, no gimmicks, no fads. Our approach is simple. Whether you're looking for weight loss, toning, muscle gain, or sporting event preparation, our trainers ensure you have all the support you need to get results. Big price? Nah. So what we've got to make sure that we do here is use a compelling headline, we translate value, use features, benefit, and advantages, you incorporate a big idea to what you're doing. Now, at the start of the first video, I said a disclaimer. At the start of this video, I showed somebody who sort of said some pretty strong words, and I'm going to finish with somebody who doesn't mix his words either. This man is Dan Kennedy, a quite unbelievable direct marketer, teacher of entrepreneurs, known as the Millionaire Maker. But he really is a blunt guy as well. He has, among other things, he founded the GKIC, the Glazer Kennedy Inner Circle, a membership area. I was a member for a few years of that. I think it's a terrific platform. And he's an author. He writes the No BS books. And yes, that is as in BS, He's pragmatic, and some will say that he can be very downright rude at times. But, I think he's something else, and he tells it like it is. So I'm going to leave this with you before we finish this one, because he says that any moron can invalidate an idea, but the smart ones will stop, think, listen, and discover how to exploit that idea in their own business. Now, I say this to you because I've mentioned what I do, and I've mentioned that I try to do it for, to the best of my ability. But I'll also tell you that, some of my clients and customers that I've worked for in the past, and you can go to this link and you can see what they say about me. We have great relationships, we work together, but I know I would have been able to do so much more for them if they did not, some of them, invalidate ideas. Okay, so as Mr. Kennedy says, he says any moron can invalidate an idea. All right, I've just told you about the big idea, and this is what you've got to do, and focus on this. But And what I'm saying in effect is that you'll be able to sit down and say, yeah, well, my business isn't like that, or that won't work, or no, I'm not sure, or this, that, and that. Fine, that's up to you. But I think the smart people watching this video will stop, think, listen, and discover how to get that big idea and put it into your own business. And if you do that, great things will happen. I promise you, great things will happen. And as we look here with the big idea, this is a very important visual for you to have, not because of my unbelievable artwork here, but what I'm just basically trying to show you here is that, you know, you can have a one-off advert, no problem. You can be saying, you know, Father's Day deal, or Mothering Sunday, or, you know, Boxing Day special, and think, fine, right? But if you've got a product, if you've got something that could be sold to people most of the time, okay, you've got to put a big idea behind the way you are going to promote it. And if you have 6 or 7 different products, guess what? That is 6 or 7 big ideas. But the beautiful thing is you will get used to, you know, okay, who's this for? You know, what's their situation? Okay, what's the new idea or the unique mechanism I can say that can get them there? And what's the big promise? You know, if they get this, what's going to happen? You can just begin to do that so naturally that you almost, you don't feel right when you're not able to put a big idea behind some of your advertising. Once again, this is Mucha Marapa. I just want to thank you for taking the time to watch this. I really hope that you're getting something out of this, because, as I say, you know, the one beautiful thing about being a digital marketing services provider and now an advertising consultant and coach is that, you know, it all starts, you know, the work I do all begins with paid traffic, right? Online, offline, you know, writing a letter, direct mail, doing something. It all begins with a client having to dig into his pocket, pay some money for something, and then we get them in the funnel, and then we work the magic. So I'm just really happy and privileged to be able to share this with you. So the next video that we are going to do, the final one, is we're going to talk about capturing data, integrating your media, and then the all-important thing about testing, tracking, and measuring. And I'm also, at the end of the last video, going to talk about a way where if you've got some ads that you'd like me to have a look at, I'd be delighted to do so. And you'll also be able to sort of network, mastermind, and mingle with other like-minded entrepreneurs who also really want to start having a profit center from their advertising as opposed to a cost center. And, you know, I salute you, Steve Harrison. Thank you for putting me on this crazy, crazy journey. I do know now who Bill Bernbeck is. I have made a commitment to learning advertising and spreading the word as much as possible. And I just really want to encourage all of you entrepreneurs to do the same.